What's going on, guys? In this video, we're going to talk about Dividend Kings. Now, you may have heard about Dividend Kings before. You also may have heard about Dividend Aristocrats. But in this video, we're going to break down exactly what makes a stock a Dividend King. Is it more desirable than normal dividend stocks? And should you invest in Dividend Kings? All right, so now before we dive into what Dividend Kings are, you need to understand, why do people like to invest in dividend stocks? Yes, it pays out an income, and that's great when you're older. You don't have to ever touch your portfolio. You can just keep that really nice, big portfolio and just get paid in dividends each month, quarter, or year. But one thing that you might look for if you are 20, 30, or 40 years old and you still have some years till retirement is dividend growth. When you invest in a dividend stock, you're going to want to make sure that it's not only going to pay you today, but it's going to pay you in 20, 30, 40 years, and it's going to pay you more than it is right now. And that's where Dividend Kings come into play. So a Dividend King is a stock that has been increasing its dividend payout for 50 consecutive years. There's not too many stocks that can do that, but if we jump over to the computer, here's a quick list of all the stocks that are Dividend Kings. Some of these stocks, most of these stocks you might know. There's Target, there's Lowe's, there's Colgate, there's Coca-Cola, there's Procter & Gamble, there's Johnson & Johnson, 3M, Stanley Black & Decker. There's a lot of big names that you've probably heard of before, and that's because these companies are very successful and they've been able to pay their investors for 50 plus years, increasing that payout each and every year. The reason why that's so big is that's why people like Warren Buffett can be getting paid 40% on his original investment on Coca-Cola. He makes, I think, $400 million a quarter just off of the dividends on his Coca-Cola share. So is it worth investing in Dividend Kings? Well, that's to your discretion, but we're going to jump back to the site that I just showed you with the list, moneyinvestexpert.com. I think they have a nice article here, and I want you to look at these two charts that we have right here. Let's make that a little bit better. There we go. So right here, you can see portfolio growth. The blue is Dividend Kings, and the red is the S&P 500. And this shows the annual return. And obviously, it's not only is it outperforming the market, but you could see that it's going at a less volatile pace. During these downturns, it's not as crazy. I wish this could get out of here because it's showing exactly where I want it, but it's not as crazy. It's going up at a much more steady pace. I wouldn't say steady because it's going up at a higher pace, but you know what I mean. It's not having these big downturns and then big jump ups. It's just nice, constant profits even when the market is in a downturn. And you can see right here under annual returns, the stupid logo, Facebook, Twitter, and Pinterest is here again. Let me just take it off. So what you can see right here is, look at 2009 down here, right? The drawdown from the S&P 500 was about 30%. For Dividend Kings, only about 15%. You could see most of these drawdowns for the Dividend Kings was nothing or nowhere near as close as how much it was for the S&P 500. And then on the upside, yes, the S&P 500 may have had some better years, but not all of them. Here's a great year for Dividend Kings, a great years here when the normal S&P has been going down. And I mean, overall, it's paid off. So if we scroll down to right here, this is another good way to see it. So this is over the course of 26 years, from 1993 to 2019. There was an initial deposit of $10,000 in both, and you could see the Vanguard went up $123,000. The Dividend Kings went up $272,000. The best year was 40% as compared to 37. And you could see for its worst years, The Dividend Kings, its worst year was only 13%. Meanwhile, Vanguard was negative 37%. And its max drawdown was only 38%. Meanwhile, the S&P 500's max drawdown was over 50%. So you can clearly see that Dividend Kings are not only more profitable over time, and this is historically speaking, anything can happen in the future, but for the bad years, they haven't been as volatile either. So we were talking about a couple on the list that you may already know about. Target is a big one, Procter & Gamble, Johnson & Johnson, 3M, Coca-Cola. Those are really like the 5 that you'll hear a lot from a lot of people saying that those are great Dividend King stocks, and I'd have to agree with them. So let's jump over to Seeking Alpha, and if we go to Target and go over to the dividends section, here's the dividend scorecard. Dividend growth, it says 20 years, but that's wrong. I don't know what's going on with Seeking Alpha. But if we go over to dividend growth, maybe it's because I'm using the free version, so I can only go back 20 years, and it's not showing the full picture. But Target, I think, has been going on for 53 or 54. I could be wrong, but it's been going on for over 50 years, so that's what makes it a Dividend King. And you can see each year. We look back in 2001, 22 cents to 24 to 26. Every single year, it has been going up. Let's look at Johnson & Johnson. Arguably the best Dividend King, because this almost looks like exponential growth. This is amazing growth. So you could see 16 to 19, 22, every single year they have increased their dividends. And that's great because when you are putting in that initial investment back in, say, 1990, and the dividend's really small, maybe the dividend is only 1% or even less than 1%. That's not going to make you much, but that will give the chance for the stock to grow, so it will appreciate over time. And then fast forward 30 years, now you're making a lot more off your initial investment. So Dividend Kings are huge for that, and people love buying them simply because they have had a proven history of how well they've been doing. They've had a proven history of paying out their investors and increasing those payouts every single year. There's plenty of stocks out there like Boeing who no longer pays dividends, or let's actually take a look. During the coronavirus, they had to cut their dividends. So if we go over to the dividends section, it doesn't look like they're really recovering anytime soon. Yeah, this is dividend history, but it doesn't look like, unknown, that this was the last one. This was their last dividend history. So they had to cut their dividends. Meanwhile, you just saw both Target and Johnson & Johnson, they've continued to pay out their dividends even in economic downturns. We look really quick, here's Target, and you could see, there you go, August 17th, 2020 was 68 cents, and then May 18th, 2020 was 66 cents. So they've continued to pay out their dividends, and if we look over the course of all the years, they're still paying out. They paid out back in 2008 as well. You've seen this before. I know I've gone over dividends a lot, and I'm really beating a dead horse over here. But yes, when it comes to Dividend Kings, I think they're an absolute great choice to invest in. Not necessarily the best choice, and that's because, again, we have to remember that past history does not guarantee future success. Any of these stocks could fold. Any of these stocks could stop paying dividends at any time. That's why I may not go after certain Dividend Kings like these, and I may go after dividend aristocrats or new dividend stocks. Perfect example would be Apple. Apple has been paying dividends since 2012, and it's only about 1%. But Apple's not going away anytime soon. They're going to be sticking around for the next 10, 20, 30, 40 years, and I'm betting a decent amount that they will continue to increase their dividends over that time. So yes, Dividend Kings are great. You can go after them. But if you're younger like me, you may not want to necessarily chase after all these dividend kings. You might want to go after these growth stocks that are starting to pay out very small dividends, because in the next 20 or 30 years, well, I guess in the next 50 years, they should become dividend kings, or at least I'm banking on them becoming dividend kings. But I think you have a pretty good understanding of what dividend kings are now. Let me know what your thoughts are. Do you like to invest in dividend kings? Do you stay away from them? Drop comments below. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button, smash that like button, and I'll see you in the next one.